welcome to another edition of the Heat Wave Syndrome. I'm Michael Huber.
Must be in the room. It's hot. Dude, that is the chillest, calmest, closest to the microphone intro to Huber Syndrome I've ever seen. Is this the new style?
This is a new thing. We're going through all 9 allies. Well, it'll be me and the eight of you. You're number 3, Jones.
Number 3.
You are number 3.
All right.
We're here.
I live here. Woo.
We're
I'm the alternate. Somebody
Yeah.
canceled.
Yep. No, I waited to see who was on friend code. I was like, all right, I'm going to wrangle Jones in for this.
I got wrangled twice. I got the friend code wrangle, and then all this me, I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll get on friend code, great. Boop. And then before I even put the phone out, Huber Syndrome as well. Let's do it. I'm so pumped. Let's do this. What do you
better
got?
be pumped. We're going to talk about things, Jones.
Okay.
We're going to see where the conversation goes. But first,
Woo.
you started game trailers.
I did.
A lot of people don't know kind of the origins, Jones. I want to hear like the intimate origins of when you knew as a human being that you were going to start game trailers.
Okay. It's 2001.
Okay.
2002. Just graduated college.
Yeah.
All my
Where'd you
friends.
go? Where'd you go?
I went to Emerson in Boston.
Okay.
So all my friends are film majors. So I got all these guys that are just like, what do we do? Do we intern? You know, do we? I had one guy, one of the co-founders, started working a lot with Spike Jonze at the time, and was working with him with music videos, like the walking, dancing music video where he's in the lobby. Like he was on set for that, and like so I was like a lot of my friends were doing really exciting stuff. And I had a friend of mine named Jeff Grotz who's very entrepreneurial. So this guy's like, I've done well for myself. I have a lot of education in business. I'm well off. There's got to be something we can do.
At this point, what did you want to do?
Like
at this moment.
Be a filmmaker. Well, I went into college wanting to be an actor.
Okay.
And then that got too hard. And I hit a point where I was like, this sucks.
You just weren't good at
This
it, or
is
is it like
such a-
stressful?
It got to a point where it's like, clearly the work required is more than I want to do just passively, you know, because like we work super hard. Like you'll be up for a review and just like, how am I going to cram all this stuff in? But you love it, and that's why you keep doing it. And I was like waiting for that love to kick in, and like it just wasn't happening. Like I loved theater, I loved performing, I love acting, I loved like all the friends and the experiences. But it just was all very easy. And then once it really got into the grueling, like the business, the audition phase, headshots, agents, I was like, this feels terrible. I'm sick to my stomach worrying about all of this stuff. And then was like, maybe I'll just get into editing. And then I found Media 100 and Premiere and nonlinear editing and just fell in love with like video production.
What was the first thing you like edited?
What was the first thing I edited?
what was that
Oh,
moment?
like a movie. Like I shot short films in like high school and college.
And you were like, this is awesome.
And we started piecing it together, yeah. And we started doing like just VHS edits, so like linear editing. So like you edit the first scene first, second scene second, third scene third. And then once I was like, wait, you can like import and like it was like I remember Gross was like, you're digitizing. They put digitizing. And we were like, whoa, you know. And so then like the early Sony digital cameras and like screwing around with those back when you used to have like decks when the camera just couldn't plug right into the computer. You had to have like a tape deck that would like digitize it that way. And then so we're all out of college and we're like, there's got to be something that we can do. And Jeff was a big GameSpot fan and I was a big IGN fan.
Yeah.
I was like the IGN guy. And we both had subscriptions. So he paid money to GameSpot and I paid money to IGN. And there was like this joke that we would pass back and forth between each other because we had other friends who were into games, but we were clearly like the most game obsessed of our friends. And we were the ones that like had the consoles like the first day they came out. And like remember like this was GTA 3 year, this was like SSX Tricky year, this was like when the PS2 really hit its stride and we were like, oh my god, games are so great, and we can like capture game footage and like play, edit game stuff. And it was like a kind of a whirlwind of things. It was like, I remember Wind Waker was the first like real big 720 by 480 like HD at the time, like footage that they showed, but Resident Evil Remake. Yeah. And I remember seeing IGN first. It was like the IGN first of 2002. They were like, look at this gigantic, gorgeous footage. And I was like, oh, and I'm like, well, I can just download that because I'm a Premiere member of IGN or whatever. And so I downloaded it and it was just sitting on my desktop and I was at work and I edited for an animation company and was like, wait, this is an MOV. And I just like dragged it into Media 100 and was like, well, I can edit with this. And so I made a spec Resident Evil trailer like as a joke.
Dude,
and
I
was
have
like
that.
Yeah, I can dig that up. I got that on DVD. Yeah, I think you've seen that. I think you've seen it. 'Cause
Okay.
It was the typewriter. It was like when he's walking through the environment and the typewriter keeps coming in and being like, "There's something about this place that seems familiar."
Oh my
The
gosh.
title at the end was horrible. It was like black on black. It was awful.
We're gonna try to show you.
But they
Alice.
but cut that, and then my Jeff was like, "Oh, that was funny," and we were like, "Why are we paying for these subscriptions when I can go to Apple movie trailers and watch movie trailers for free?" And we were like, "Yeah, that's weird." And like, I honestly don't remember who had the light bulb first, but we just kind of stared at each other, and he was like, "Now go!" And I like ran into my room and like booted up. It wasn't a GoDaddy. I can't remember at the time what website provider, what website purchaser I was subscribed to, but Dotster, I think it was. And I like typed in like GameTrailers.com and like it's free. And just it was like $10. I'm like, boom. And so I grabbed it before we had any idea what we were doing. The first site was a joke. It took a while for it to like get off, but that was like, it was the combination of being film school majors, having just this hunger to like not only get in, but I saw a lot of my friends were like, I'm gonna go make a short film. It was like, you're spending $50,000 on something that could just not work. And here I spent $10 on a thing that like we could slowly grow. And like at the time, it's a totally different climate now for like making a new website. It's like much smarter to make like an Instagram account than like buy your own like website URL.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that is awesome.
Then we started hiring other people, and then we eventually got to Huber, and then it really kicked off.
So Jones, you said Grand Theft Auto 3 in there at one point. Jones, you have a deep, deep love for open world games that I want to explore right now.
I went off. I did my top. I syndrome today on Cup of Jones because I didn't know what editorial I was going to do, and I was like, I'm so excited for this Q3 and Q4.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go off and didn't even mention Assassin's Creed because just like after Red Dead, like
yeah, what room
Just
is
Cause
there?
in December. It's like,
but Jones,
boy.
when was the moment you became obsessed with open worlds? Was it GTA 3? Was that the game?
Yeah, probably. I mean, like in a sense, like Ocarina of Time was kind of that. More open, just like that. Like once I got that first hit in the PS1, PS2, 64 era, like, whoa, like just imagine, like, because it was easy once we got over that hump of like, oh my god, we're playing games in 3D. Then you just started to think, well, as games are going to get bigger and we're going to have more technology, more we can do, these games will look prettier, but more specifically, they're going to grow. And like, I remember playing Road Rash for like the Sega CD, playing that with, I believe, Jeff, and we got off the bike, like that. We like, it crashed, and the bike like went ahead of us, and then the guy does a little run animation, the little like Mortal Kombat 2D sprite does his like little animation back to the bike, and I remember Jeff at the time was like, "What if you could just keep going?"
Keep running.
What if you could just, you're like not glued to the bike, but what if I could turn right now and just go that way, And like, so it was a long time. It was that I was like pining for that type of experience, just kind of like, what if the joke, if you see it, you can go to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, GTA 3, and it was crazy because GTA 3 was like one of those first times I was going to get that, and I was still so confused when I first heard about 3 because I knew GTA from college. I had friends that played it, but I was just looking top down. I was like, I wasn't a big PC guy. I'm like, it's not my vibe. And then I certainly appreciate it now going back after having played all the GTA games. And but when people were describing to me, I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, you go on missions. I'm like, but from a menu? And they're like, no, you go to the place and there's a spot you have to stand on, and then that cues the mission in a cutscene. I was like, go back to the video. What? It just didn't make sense to me. And then I played it like, whoa, this is going to change everything.
Were you anticipating it before it came out, or did you play at a friend's house?
Not really, yeah. Like in the PS2 era, a lot of stuff just kind of came at me because there's just so many games in that gen that, I was not really...
What were some of like the earliest games, Jones, that you were anticipating before they came out and you were day one purchase?
Aliens versus Predator for the Atari Jaguar for sure. That was humongous. I remember I saved up just enough and like didn't factor in like taxes. Yeah. And so like I went there with like I think it was $300 for the Jaguar. Like so I went there with like $360. Like I'll have the Atari Jaguar in one video game, please. And it was like, wait, no. That's not gonna.
It was like 400 something.
And my friend's mom like came with me to the mall to buy him the same because he was obsessed too. It was Jeff again, like
Jaguar
to buy that. And then we were there, and I realized I was short, and just kind of like looked to my friend's mom, and she was like, "Okay, you gotta pay me back." I'm like, "I totally will. I'll save up all my allowance. I just didn't know." And I got Cybermorph and AVP and came home, and
that
just
is amazing.
And played that nonstop. That was
Jones,
so good.
I had a calendar in my room marking down the days until Superman 64. And we know how that turned out. devastation.
Did you know at the time though? Because I played Pac-Man.
I knew as soon as you started flying through rings in like the early stages, I knew that I was in a bad spot. I was like, this is not good.
Because there were a lot of bad games, like again, the Pac-Man for the Atari. I thought was fantastic. I didn't really stop to think. Wait, this looks nothing like. I was just like, I'm playing a video game in my house. Woo! So yeah, I can't think Spider-Man on the PS2 and Perfect Dark. Oh my God, Perfect Dark.
Yeah,
was just, every time I open a magazine, like when. I
feel bad for Perfect Dark. Do you too, Jones, feel like it's kind of lying in the shadow of GoldenEye?
Yeah.
And that it always will be, in a weird way. It's so good.
Yeah, the hard thing about GoldenEye is like Bond is still popular. So like we still kind of love just Bond
the property.
and that attachment to it. And like GoldenEye itself is a great movie. I think it's aged very well. And so it's like we love that movie, we love the game, we love the franchise. Whereas like Perfect Dark's like it never really caught on. Zero is not good. It's just kind of been treated strangely ever since that. Yeah, it's like a franchise we can maybe get back to, but it's
for
tough.
England, James.
It's
blow
tough.
them all to hell.
And I think the story because there was no voice acting in GoldenEye, but there was voice acting in Perfect Dark. And I think it's tough because GoldenEye was kind of like a campy retelling of Perfect Dark and Moonraker and Man with a Golden Gun in a sense. But you still had those original properties, whereas like the only anything we have from Perfect Dark is from those games.
Yeah.
And so like while I love Perfect Dark and I love technically what that game was able to produce, and some of those levels are just like some of my favorite from GoldenEye and Perfect Dark combined. It's kind of a silly story. It's kind of like the aliens influence. It's just a little weird and campy and feels a lot like the 64 era. So it's a hard franchise to update.
Yeah.
And think of like how you can make that cool now. Unfortunately.
Jones, you're talking about aliens.
It's just like the keywords. It's like Final Fantasy 2. It's like one of the aliens is in blue font. It's like, remember that word.
Jones, did you see the Terminator in the movie theater? Terminator 1.
Hell, no, of course not.
No?
No, way too young.
How about T2?
In the theater, probably.
In the theater.
Yeah. Probably went with some friends.
Tell me about that experience, Jones.
I mean, James Cameron was Lord on high for many years for me. That man could do no wrong. Even like looking back now, like Titanic is a weird movie, but at the time I was like, yeah! He won the Academy Award. I was like, that's right, Hollywood. And now it's like, what a weirdo. But yeah, I mean, for me at that age, that was everything. I think I was like 13 when that came out or something. Yeah, that was 90. That was like 90. Wait,
yeah,
no,
91?
I think it might have 91.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was 11.
Nice.
So, wait, no, 12. I was 12. So yeah, sign me up. That was everything. And especially since I remember Scott Porter, tip my hat to Mr. Scott Porter, who was in my scout group, he's older than me, and just babysat me one time. My parents went out to do something, and I don't know how Scott like volunteered or something like that, and they were just like, yeah, bring him by the house. It's like, went by the Porter house, and his dad, Ralph, was like one of my scout leaders. Like, I knew the family really well. I remember we were over there, and I was just like going through his VHS tapes, and I was just like, he's like, you want to watch a movie? I'm like, yeah, watch a movie. And like one of the first, I start with A alphabetically, Aliens right there. And it was not only Aliens, he taped it off the television with commercials. So it was like the Fox special premiere of Aliens on TV, including Hudson on the thing, like, we got assault rifles, we got all the auto
like
guns.
promo.
And no, it was all the extras. It was like the bonus, and it had the scene with Newt in the beginning.
The special edition.
The extended edition.
Dude.
TV premiere in the 80s. Something. Can you imagine that?
Crazy.
Watching Aliens, like, and I think it must have been. They couldn't have had swears and stuff like that. It must have been, but like I just didn't realize at the time.
When you were a kid, it didn't matter.
And I was just like, amazed, blown away. And so, like, by the time Terminator 2 came around, I was like, wait, this is the Terminator thing? So I went back and watched the first Terminator, and then The Abyss blew my mind. And I was just like, this man is flawless.
Yeah.
Like, this guy.
Filmmaking,
This guy can do no wrong.
You were talking about Alien versus Predator being like your first Jaguar game. You love Aliens.
Right.
What's your affiliation with Predator, Jones? Are you an enthusiast?
Yeah, I love Predator. I think Predator, possibly Schwarzenegger's best. Really, like looking at the whole thing.
Above Terminator.
I think above T1 and T2. Yeah.
The emotion.
Because I think one of the things that I like about Predators, it's an interesting commentary on like Red Heat, and Commando, and like there was just a lot of Schwarzenegger films at the time where it's like just drop Schwarzenegger in, he's fine, he'll do whatever, and he's not fine. Like they are outgunned severely in that movie, and I think that's like really interesting that it like has the trappings of your typical 80s 90s action film where they go in, stick around the whole just running through and blowing everybody up, and you see like, oh, I know this movie, great, and then it just takes this sharp turn where it's like, no, they're severely outgunned. They are going up against something they should not. The just how long it takes for you to see him, how much he's stalking them and learning from them, and then Schwarzenegger realizing at that moment where he kicks the gun out of her hand, just like that. And to me, like the whole difference of the whole first part of the movie up to that point to the whole movie after that. Him making the bow and screaming, like it's so
do it. It's
culmination, and it's McTiernan, right? So it's Die Hard, it's the same guy, and like I think he kind of did that, which I really appreciate for two action films in like the 80s and 90s. Has kind of brought everything down to like a more approachable level to where this was not, I'm not just watching this because it's fun to see stuff blow up. Like I'm actually identifying with this guy, like that's actually really interesting to have, him have this real kind of bromance with Carl Weathers and then realize, well, you screwed me, dude. You screwed all of us. You killed my whole squad just because you have no idea what's going on. And how typical it was too, even at the time of like thinking about war, the fact that like all these people are being killed and skinned. And so they're like, well, it's obviously these drug dealers. And like, no, it's this alien. Like you're jumping to conclusions. Like they had nothing to do with this. It's literally just this one thing. And then the sci-fi aspect. The only part of Predator I don't like is that he's like standing there at the end. Like I think it'd be great if they landed the copter and like dug him out. If they literally like found somewhere and like saw his hand, and we're like, and there's like, pulled all the pieces of wood back and pulled him out, and he's just because when he's in the copter, he can barely stand, like he can barely open his eyelids, and then when they land the copter, he's like, you gotta
get that money flexing, shot. Like, oh yeah.
But everything else in that movie is pretty flawless.
What are your thoughts on the score? Running Man, Jones?
Just watched it again.
Me too. It was recently. On TV.
It's on Amazon Prime right now.
Yes.
Go get it.
Love it. Just Arnold. Arnold.
That feels like Verhoeven. Who directed Running Man?
It might have been Verhoeven. Yeah.
I doubt it. It doesn't spring to mind. It feels very Verhoeven-ish.
Yeah, it does.
In that it's funny, but
it's not.
At the same time, like speaks to a very self-aware analysis of television and of
more relevant now.
Have you ever read The Running Man? You ever read the Stephen King short film that was based on? So many Stephen King short stories went on. Lawnmower Man,
crazy.
The Green Mile, just The Green Mile.
Green Mile, he did. Yep. Shawshank.
These were all just little tiny. Yeah, they were all little tiny
all
stories that he wrote. Very different, but. My money's on Ben Richards. It's great how many. I love the conflict. I think my favorite scene going back and watching it was Jesse Ventura being like, "No, I'm not going to do it."
Yes.
Just that idea of the talent, and you're kind of seeing that. You look again. I'm just reaching here, but it's like Seth MacFarlane speaking out against Fox News. It's like this moment. Like it's very rare to have talent within a company talk back against the company themselves, like publicly like that.
Yeah,
and. Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, it reminds you of RoboCop. It's like a movie where when you first mention it, I'm just like, yeah. And then the more I think, like, there's actually some interesting political ideology going on in that film.
That's
and the same with RoboCop. There's a lot of commentary. Starship Troopers, like that's why it makes me think of Verhoeven.
We're gonna start wrapping this up. You haven't seen Predators. I really want you to watch it.
I haven't seen Predators. Yeah, I haven't seen. I'm not hyped for the Predator.
Really?
Yeah.
Not hyped? Shane Black? It'll probably be better than Predators, and Predators is solid.
Well, I haven't seen that, so I don't know. Yeah, I'm just...
Big dumb fun, Predators. Like, it's better than it should be.
Yeah. It's just kind of where I'm at with the Jurassic Park franchise, where I'm ready for the new film. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I want something that's not just kind of like the first movie recast in a different scenario.
Do you think
Predator 2 I thought kind of was justifiable because it's so soon after Predator 1, and was like a whole new cast. I grew up in LA, so I loved the LA vibe.
It's got Gary Busey.
Gary Busey, so
out of control.
But yeah, ever since then I'm just like, especially like AVP. I'm like, okay,
I was gonna say, do you think there will be another AVP film, and do you want another AVP film?
I'd love an AVP anime. You know what I mean? And like, like I say animated, but I think more like animated was the first thing that jumped to my mind, and it's like no, anime. Just because just live action, I just don't trust the actors they're gonna hire. I don't trust whatever writer is gonna put some weird story together. It's Aliens too. It's like ever since 3, I'm just like I'm so out. I can't,
What if they swerve it, and instead of doing an AVP proper, they put like an Alien or something in a Predator movie, like this new Predator coming out.
Okay.
What if that's a big secret? Would you be down for something like
Easter
that?
egg? Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but you don't want like
I'm not like
full-on-
boycotting this stuff,
Yeah.
Like I'm down. I just didn't see Predators because I'm a dumbass. I just didn't make time for it.
Will you make
But-
time for the Predator?
Not in theaters, but if it
Are you not a Shane Black fan? I thought you were a big fan of him.
Yeah, remind me of.
So he did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang,
Right.
and
There was a big one though.
Iron Man 3, and one of
That was it because he was a big RDJ fan,
Mm-hmm.
and so he was somehow instrumental even in Iron Man in the first one. Didn't he like write it or something?
I think he
wrote a bunch of
helped.
movies too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I respect his work. I'm not like saying it's gonna be bad.
No, of course.
I'm not shooting anybody.
I
else aside
just
for it.
I thought you would be super on board for a hard R.
It
Predator.
kind of reminds when the lawnmower doesn't start and you got that big chain and you just like gung, 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 gung. Like that's what Predator feels like. It's
Yeah.
just like every time like another like, hey Shane, can you come over and try this? And it's like all right, and it's just not like I maybe if and I'm so nitpicky about stupid stuff, but like maybe even if it wasn't called like the Predator, it's like oh god,
Yeah.
that it's just it's like no, this is gonna be the
This is
movie
the
that
reboot
you're
of
really
it.
gonna be scared of him now, and it's like just ever since that first one, so scary.
If Arnold shows up, will you be pumped?
Sure, I'm not something I need. I'm
Speaking
happy for both Predator and Aliens to have nothing to do with Arnold or Sigourney Weaver. Just done. Move on. Fun story about Predator though. When I first met my father-in-law. And I was going home to their home for a Christmas break, and I was like, "What do I get your dad for a Christmas present?" She's like, "Oh, I don't know." And I was talking to my mother-in-law now, and she mentioned "quote unquote" exploding head movies. And she was like, "Oh, you exactly, of course, the first thing everybody thinks of."
yeah.
But she's like, "Oh, yeah, Michael likes exploding head movies," and I was like, "All right." And so I'm like, Michael, I'm going to get you one of my favorite exploding head movies. And so I was thinking, like, what movies do I like that you literally see a head erupt? And, like, you see the back of, I don't remember his name, Past Them Trees, that scene. You see that guy's head just paint the camera. And I was like, oh, great. And so.
I think Shane Black wrote Predator, didn't he?
The first print? Well, geez, I don't know.
I feel
Easy.
like
Slow yourself.
Yeah, slow myself. Okay.
But yeah, I showed that, and my mother-in-law was not a fan. Father-in-law liked it. He was a fan, and I got it for him. So he loves DVDs. He's just got stacks and stacks. And
It's
stacks.
the exploding head
So I was like,
section.
there you go.
Whatever
Whatever anniversary edition.
Speaking of franchises coming back, Jones,
Dun 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 dun.
the Terminator
Right.
is coming back
Okay.
with
Oh,
Linda
right.
Hamilton.
Yeah. I see pictures from the set.
Retconning everything after T2.
Yeah. The Superman Returns approach.
Are you okay with this? Are you down?
I am more down with this than anything you've brought up on this show so far.
Okay.
I'm extremely curious.
Because the Terminator interests you more, or because you like the idea of retconning films in a franchise?
I am hella curious. I'm all about creator's intent. Like when someone steps in and is like, all right, wait. I'd be way more excited if we got an Alien 3 from Cameron as opposed to a Terminator 3.
Yeah.
But it's just a fascinating idea to me. And so I'm not excited about it because I'm like, this is going to be rad because who knows. But I'm super curious what... I think it's kind of like when I thought Marvel was going to be at the Square Enix press conference at E3. It's like, why else are they doing it? So it's like kind of one of those things like, why? Why is he... What happened when he woke up? When Cameron first started the Terminator, he had a nightmare that he was in a ditch and it was raining. And there was just the upper torso of a robot that had a dagger and it was going... And it was chasing him through this... and he kept climbing. It was kind of like that scene from Poltergeist where she falls in the pool, where he kept climbing up through the mud and it just kept getting muddier and muddier and he couldn't get away from this thing and it kept getting closer and closer. And he woke up at like 4 a.m. and called his writing, I don't know, it was Catherine Bigelow or somebody, and was like, I'm making a robot movie because I just had the scariest dream I've ever had in my entire life, this thing. And the vibe I got was this thing would not stop. And so like he keeps bringing it up again and again through T1 and T2. So it's like, did he have another dream? Like what made Cameron wake up in a cold sweat being like, we're going back. You know, like,
It was it was the right reverting to him. Honestly,
yeah, I guess,
You know?
but being willing to pounce on that, because you see, and that's one thing that upsets me is you see, like, you know, Abrams walking away from Star Trek and Star Wars, you know, although he's coming back, like a lot of these people that will like kickstart a series and then the series becomes very successful and they're like, all right, I'm out. Chris Columbus made 2 Harry Potter movies, I'm out, you know, like, and it's strange to me, like, oh, that's a bummer that they can't stick around, that we can't see like the Nolan trilogy, take it or leave it. It's his, you know, he got to make 3 movies and really tell that story the way he wanted to. So for that reason, I'm curious to see like what.
Who is your favorite creator?
Probably Walt Disney for the cheesy answer.
Disney. Wow.
When you think of like creator,
that's hard
it's like,
to top.
yeah, hotels and stuff. It's like, yeah, just but also as far as like inspiring others and like seeing how much people loved his work that then went on to create other stuff. You know, it's like Pixar, you know, and all these other companies that like have then Marvel now, you know, that have then got to do their own stuff. But yeah, he's good.
Excluding
my favorite artist, though,
Yeah.
John Williams, no question. And I'm seeing him the end of. I'm actually not going to PAX West because I'm seeing him at the Hollywood Bowl, and I miss it every year I go to PAX. My
Yeah.
wife like texts me, you know,
John Williams.
a picture of all the lightsabers. She's like, having a good time at the bowl. I'm like,
this
so
is
this
the
year it was like I think it's his 50th anniversary at the bowl.
You got to.
Just the bowl.
You can't pass it up.
The man's been playing the bowl for 50 years. I'm like, I can't. Okay, this might be the last time I get to see him. So. I don't care if he plays one song and walks off stage.
Yeah, honestly.
I was that nerd.
Waves.
I was that nerd. I saw this on social media a lot. People were talking about like nerd moments they're proud of that like are examples of their nerdery. And I remember being at the Hollywood Bowl in my like mid-teens. I was like 14 or 15, and he's like. He would come out and do encores. So he'd do like 2 or 3 encores, and they were planned. So they would like change the lighting of the back of the Hollywood Bowl to like fit. If it was Superman, to be red and blue and all that stuff. And so he comes out at the end, and I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, he hasn't played Raiders yet. I wonder if he's gonna play Raiders. And he comes out, and there's always, you can tell the distance between hardcore John Williams fans and everyone else who just has seen the films that he's worked on. And it's usually like a 5 to 10 second gap of like, oh, it's E.T. You're like, oh, it's this. And I'm like, just poised, like in my chair. And he comes out and goes, bump. And I'm like, yeah! And I stood up like screaming because it was bump. Ba-da-bum,
Yeah,
bum,
that
ba-da-bum,
first note.
bum, ba-da-bum. And it was like I
Yes.
just knew that first note like in the
Yes.
back of my brain, and my parents were like, "Whoa, dude, what?" And I'm like, "It's Indiana Jones," and everyone around me was like, "God, that kid is crazy." Oh, it's Indy, you know, like.
Temple
I
of
was
Doom
that
is
one
my
little
favorite, Jones.
nut.
I'm sorry.
It's great.
I love it.
It's really fun. I went back and watched
So
it, and
much.
it's a lot funnier than I remembered.
I think
It's pretty
Raiders is the best, but Temple is my favorite.
Yeah,
I think Raiders is just straight up the best.
yeah, it's like Star Wars Empire.
Yeah.
Clearly recognizes the best. Return's my favorite. You know, just because Yoda and
Yeah.
Jabba and all that stuff. And he's still pumping them out. John Williams got one more Star Wars movie to go. He's doing episode 9.
And Indiana Jones 5. Did you hear about this?
He got bumped to
got-
2021.
Yeah.
Nah.
Do you like Indiana Jones 4? Are you okay
No.
with it? At all?
I like the scene in his house where Mud's going through all of his stuff. I like the motorcycle chase. I like the opening. I think is clever. I like when he holds up the dust and it like magnetizes towards the arc. I like
you-
starting with the arc.
do
but then
you-
like 35 minutes in that movie, it's all.
Do you create your own reality, Jones? Do you like disavow that movie as part of the canon, or
No, it's there. You got it. You got
sit
it.
with everything too? Like Terminator Genesis, like
Oh,
it's canon.
yeah. It's the
Okay.
Unless, again, that's what's fascinating about 3.
Is
You're just
there?
like,
Oh
all
yeah.
right, okay.
It's
great.
not
I'll-
gonna be.
I'll get rid of it. Well, we were talking about Salvation, and like I was like 20 minutes into Salvation. I'm like, this is great. I don't know what everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is the movie they were talking about. Never mind. Sorry.
Don't you hate that when a
opens
movie
well.
starts really well and then it's-
AKA every single or Roland Emmerich movie ever.
yeah.
Stargate, Independence Day, Day After Tomorrow.
Intros.
Like
Sick.
that man can open a film. Like that man sets up the stakes so well. In the first 30 minutes of all of them, you're like, this is gonna be rad, and then just forget
Off
it.
the rails.
The House of Cards comes crashing down.
Excluding Two-Face Part 1 and Part 2, what is your favorite animated episode of Batman?
Oh, I don't know.
Excluding Two-Face.
Oh,
Excluding Heart of Ice.
oh, Cardiff, that won an Emmy, dude. Oh God, it's so I think honestly one. Did you see Batman and Harley? That was weird.
It was a movie?
I watched that last night. It's
No.
on Amazon Prime. It's free on
Okay.
Amazon Prime right now. It's every bit. It's Hamill's not in it, but it's Conroy and Lauren Lester as Robin.
Awesome.
Different Harley, which sucks.
I know,
different
and they changed her in
different
the games,
different
too.
Poison Ivy, which sucks.
Yeah.
Well, the games are different because it's a whole different cast anyway.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's the
and
original
weird.
Harley in the first
it's
one.
like raunchy and it's weird. Tonally, it's kind of like they were just getting a lot of jokes they always wanted to get out on the
Yeah.
series. But speaking of Harley, there's one episode that I totally forgot about going back on Prime, and we're all gonna have to watch them again. It's coming to Blu-ray, where Harley legitimately tries to go legit.
Yeah.
And it's like her struggles of like she just can't, like she's in a store trying to buy something and they think she's stealing it, but she's not, so she gets mad at them and so she ends up stealing it. And then like Batman finally catches her at the end and she's like, I tried, you know, like, and I love that. I love that the show got to be around for that long, that they got to experiment with stuff like that, and you got to see like possible. There's a Penguin one too where he potentially goes
straight,
legit,
yeah.
but it's a totally different story from the Harley one. And so I just loved that they treated all of those characters like human beings. That even when you would have the one where they put Batman on trial, which is also really, really good.
Yeah.
Like really great Croc moments, really great moments for these other characters to shine. They're so good. The ventriloquist man at the end of the first episode where she's like, "Oh, that's coming along really well," and he's like, "Thank you," and then turns it over. Just the scar. Like,
Love that Joker has because I've been replaying the Arkham games. Love that Joker has the dummy at the end of Asylum, Scarface. He's just like playing with it at the end. So good. And the way they tie it all in too. You go to like Arkham City and you like see it in a cabinet or whatever. And like just the way all that connects is so cool. And like not knowing who the dummy is, like blurring the lines, you know? Because it's
yeah.
like he's clearly crazy, but everyone is so convinced by his performance that like Scarface the doll is actually controlling him.
the one where he thinks he goes away. Where like they kidnap him, like his henchmen kidnap him to try to snap the ventriloquist out of it, and like. They're like, oh, because it's the ventriloquist guy, it's not him. And then like he finally comes back and like yells at the mobsters, like, you thought you were gonna decide when I was coming back?
So
Like,
good.
so messed up. And there's really great studies, books that have been written just on the psychology of all of those characters.
Yeah.
And I like that the psychology doesn't just end, to reiterate why that's one of my favorite episodes, with just like, they're nuts and they're nuts in this way, move on to the next villain. But like, can they be rehabilitated? What would those steps be? Why do they keep committing their crimes over and over and over again? That's why Heart of Ice is so damn good, is because he's such an untraditional villain for like an animated show, you know, for you to kind of be for him. You know, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I see why you're like this. I get it, you know, and those are always the best characters. You're the Kylo Rens of the world. You're like, yeah, a little more interested in him.
Kylo Ren though.
Yeah, not to bring up another name.
All right, Jones.
Woo!
That is gonna do it for this episode
My pleasure, man.
of Hubris.
Are we even shooting now? I forgot. I just really had to wonder, like, did I even hit
Gotcha.
record?
Gotcha. Took you down the hole, Jones.
This is, I'm syndroming out.
That's what it's like.
I gotta get out of here.
You say these buzzwords and we just go there. Thanks so much, everyone. See you next week.